So yeah, I'm Anna. I'm the president of Sustainability Club.
My name is Emily. I'm one of the environmental volunteers.
My name is Joseph. I'm also one of the presidents of Sustainability Club.
Hi, my name is Nayeli, and I'm also a volunteer.
All right, so today we're going to talk about aquaponics. All right.
So the definition of aquaponics, it's a system of aquaculture in which the waste produced by farm fish or other aquatic animals supplies nutrients for plants grown hydroponically, which in turn purifies the water. This definition was derived from Oxford Languages, but let's find out what more this means to us.
So what is an aquaponic system? An aquaponic system are systems that combine aquacultures with hydroponics in a symbiotic environment. And aquaculture is the farming of aquatic organisms, while hydroponics is growing plants without soil by using nutrient-dense water. And symbiotic relationships are the relationships between two species where at least one species benefits. And the symbiotic relationship that's found in aquaponics is mutualism. And that basically just means that both species involved, which in this case would be plants and fish, are benefiting from each other. And in this case, the plants benefit from the nutrients that they get from the fish organic waste because they use it as a natural fertilizer to grow, and the fish benefit because they get their water filtered by the plant and it no longer contains the chemicals that are in the discharge. And aquacultures are used for the organic matter that they discharge, which works as a natural fertilizer because it contains nutrients that are required for plant growth.
So this is the aquaponics lab at our school. So basically, this is called a media aquaponic system. And so there's media, which is a type of clay in this tub, and then there's plants, and then we have the fish tank right here in the black fish tank. And then we have pipes, and the pipes pump up the water from the fish tank into the media tub. And so that's how the plants get their water. And in the water is the nutrients that they need. And after they take up the nutrients, they'll distill it. And so it goes back into this tub and it will go back into the fish tub. And so the water is free from the fish waste, which we use for the plants.
So what is an aquaponic system continued? So the systems only use about 1/10 the amount of water that regular gardening uses, as the water is continuously recycled, which means that so it's only using 1/10 of what you would use specifically for when you're gardening. Systems are self-sustaining and require significantly less labor and upkeep than traditional gardening crop does. You can also place this system anywhere as long as it has some sort of light, whether if it's sunlight or natural or your own growing lights. So an aquaponic system doesn't take up a lot of space, which allows it to be able to be placed anywhere, which makes it suitable for urban farming. And systems come in many different forms and sizes and can be different depending on what is used for. So if it's for personal or experimental or commercial farming use, you might use a different system depending on what's happening.
Okay.
So the current state of agriculture globally. So farmers will need to produce 70% more than is produced today by 2050 due to an increasing human population. Agriculture today accounts for 70% of global water use, and the 70% is of fresh water use. And in the world, there's more salt water than fresh water. So this is important because we're using a lot of our fresh water, and we can't use salt water to grow plants. So this is an issue we're facing. Currently, 1/4 of the world's population face extreme water stress. Water stress is when the demand for water is higher than the available amount. Pesticide runoff is responsible for contaminating water resources and can build up in fish, which exposes humans to these chemicals as well as ruin the water supply for farming. humans are exposed to these pesticides because when humans eat fish, the pesticides accumulate in the fish, and then we are eating the pesticides as well.
All right, so the current state of agriculture globally. Okay, so the agricultural industry relies on fossil fuels for shipping crops long distances, which contributes greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. And this is because crops are grown on farms in different regions across the country. So if you're getting your plants, if you're getting tomatoes from California, but you live in Illinois, that's gonna use a lot of fossil fuels in order to transport it. Greenhouse gases also increase temperature in the atmosphere, which leads to climate change. Greenhouse gases are gases that trap heat, and a lot of those are fossil fuels, which are emitted for shipping crops long distances. And so that's one of the major reasons why global warming is happening. Fossil fuel usage can be decreased if people got their crops more locally. Industrial agriculture often depletes the soil nutrients because of poor farming practices, which decrease the amount of usable farming land. Because farming practices such as overgrazing, which is when you have your farm animals, they'll eat too much of the grass, you lose that grass, and the grass was used to compact the soil, keep it in place. And so it's able to blow away from the wind or from water that passes through it. And that means we're losing more of the soil, which isn't good.
So this is a picture of a typical commercial farm, and this is what you would see in the agricultural industry. And the vehicle that's in the picture is called a spray drift, and it sprays pesticides onto the plants so that the plants aren't attacked by bugs, because once they are exposed to the pesticides, they're poisoned by the chemicals if they try eating the crops. History of aquaponics. So the first recorded form of aquaponics were in the Maya and Aztec civilizations, and the Mayans used a lake and cultivated plants on rafts on the water, while the Aztecs created agricultural islands and grew crops by using water from canals and nutrient-rich mud. Aquaponics was also seen in Southeast Asia, in southern China, in Thailand, and in Indonesia, in paddy fields with fish where rice is farmed. And fish are still used in rice field systems in Southeast Asia for the nutrients the water has from their organic waste, but this process has been used for a very long time.
So modern aquaponics came from experiments by fish farmers attempting to decrease fish reliance on land and water. In the 1970s, plants were used as natural filters in the fish farm systems. In the 1980s, the first form of a closed-loop aquaponic system was developed by Mark McMurtry and Professor Doug Sanders. In this system, organic waste from fish was used as nutrients for plant growing beds, and water drained back into the tanks filtered from the growing beds. And this system, developed in the 80s, is one used today. Oh, and this is a picture of agricultural islands that the Aztecs used to grow crops on.
So the parts of an aquaponic system are plants, fish, bacteria, media, pump, a sump tank, grow lights, PVC pipe or pipes, and a fish feeder. Out of all these parts, the three most important are probably the plants, fish, and bacteria, as the others can be optional depending on which system you choose to use. So for example, in a floating raft system, which we'll get into later, you might not need media or a sump tank or grow lights, but you might need maybe the PVC pipes and the fish feeder. But in all of the systems, regardless, you still need plants, fish, and bacteria. And traditionally, people usually forget about bacteria, but it's the most important because without it, the aquaponic system doesn't thrive as well. So how aquaponic systems will operate is that they work through a cycle. And aquaponic systems use each part of the man-made ecosystem in order to benefit the next part of the cycle. So for example, the fish excrete, and then the excrement goes into a kind of reservoir, or a sump tank is what it would be called. And then that is pumped up to the plants, which then the bacteria break down the ammonia into nitrites, and then into nitrates that can be used by the plants, which then purifies the water for the fish to use. And this just keeps going on. So this is a closed loop system, and it's much like how, for example, the Calvin cycle in photosynthesis, and how you need products to go in so that way you can get products to go out.
So for live components of aquaponics, plants are obviously very important because they act as a natural filter for the water, and the plants also absorb nitrates. And the part where they absorb nitrates is very important because it detoxifies the water, and the water is detoxed from the nitrates, which are the nutrients from the fish excrement, and that way the fish can contribute to continue to thrive in the water without accumulating toxins from their own waste.
So another live component of aquaponics are fish. So the fish excrements provide nutrients for the plants, and the fish excrements, or the fish waste, it contains nitrogen in the form of ammonia. Tilapia are the fish that are most commonly used due to their hardiness. Hardiness means that they can handle a large range of pH, and they can also live in crowded areas, which are perfect for a tank setting. So another live component of aquaponics is bacteria. And as Joseph mentioned, this is one of the components that many people will forget. So bacteria changes the waste from the fish into usable substance for the plants to grow. And this process is called nitrification. Nitrification changes the ammonia, which is in the fish waste, into nitrates, and then into nitrites, which are the organic fertilizers that the plants need to grow.
So this is the first aquaponic system that we're going to talk about, and it's called an NFT system, or nutrient film technique system. In an NFT system, a thin film of water flows continuously down channels, and this provides each plant with the nutrients that they need. The nutrients are from the fish waste in the water, which is why this system works so well. So as you can see in the picture with the white channels, under that is probably a area where the fish are, and the fish are excreting, or they're eating food and they're excreting and making waste. It is then delivered with a water pump into the channels, and that provides the ammonia that the plants will need.
Okay, so another type of aquaponic system is a media bed. And the media bed system uses a separate container to grow the plants in. And this container could be porous rock or clay, and that's the media part. And the media bed is the most common type of aquaponic system that is used. And this is also, like I said earlier, the type of aquaponic system that we have at our school at Lane Tech. We have an aquaponics lab. Okay. Another system is the deep water culture, and the deep water culture system grows plants in a massive reservoir of water. The deep water culture system gets its name due to the conditions that it is grown in, and that a large amount of root mass in the system is submerged into the water. So if you look at this image over here, you can see the root system, you could see a floating raft where the pots are and where the plants are. And so basically what happens is similar to the other aquaponic systems, the roots will go into the water and they take the nutrients from the fish waste. So the fish will poop or something, and they'll take up those nutrients after the process of nitrification. And it uses it as a nutrient to fertilize the plant in order to grow. And then the water that distills down after it takes up the nutrients, it no longer has the waste in it. And so that allows the fish to continue to thrive and to continue to go to the bathroom where the roots will take up those nutrients.
So aquaponics around the world. 12% of the global population of humans, or 815 million people, are malnourished, meaning they do not have enough food to eat. So 815 million people, that's a very large number. And this is only going to get larger as human population grows. So countries that suffer from a lack of usable farming land or water do not have enough resources to produce an adequate amount of food. So aquaponics only requires 10% of the water that traditional farming does, and 10% less of building parts of the system. Aquaponic systems can be built anywhere. So this is a great example of aquaponics helping places where they do not have enough food to eat or unusable farming land.
Okay, so aquaponics and sustainability. So we are a sustainability club. We cannot talk about aquaponics without talking about its importance to sustainability. Sustainability means in order to keep something going. So we want to sustain things for a very long amount of time. So aquaponics would be more sustainable than traditional farming, because traditional farming uses a lot of water while aquaponics does not. Aquaponic systems' ability to recycle water in a closed loop system means that it doesn't deplete water and that there's no pollution associated with it. So water is it's a limited resource. We don't have enough of it to keep on using it in agriculture forever. So we're going to have to find ways that we can reduce the amount of water that we're using. And there's also no pollution associated with it, which is really important because pollution leads to global warming, and that causes climate change. Water with nitrate nutrients from fishes, organic waste, is also filtered through the plant beds, which means that the fish in the tubs aren't receiving any of the waste back, and so they're able to continue thriving without accumulating toxins. And aquaponics requires no fossil fuel energy, meaning that it does not contribute to greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which trap heat and contribute to global warming.
So aquaponics and the future, what does this mean? So since aquaponics takes up less space than traditional farms, this leads to it being a promising development, as it can be used to grow crops anywhere, even in areas experiencing environmental issues such as drought or in desert areas. And additionally, this would be also one of the most effective plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, because instead of having to have tractors and all these other heavy pieces of machinery that pump lots of exhaust out into the atmosphere, all you have is like a little simple man-made ecosystem that makes all of the nutrients that you need in a circular loop, rather than having to transport all of this stuff and grow through these big crop fields, which makes it promising because it can help us decrease our carbon footprint.
All right, so these are our sources, just in case you want to look back at them when we're talking about, when we send you the video. But yeah, so I'm going to go out of present mode, and then we're going to answer some questions. You guys have any? But yeah. All right, so do you guys have any questions for us about aquaponics? What did you take away from this, maybe? Just like, if you have anything you want to say, that's okay. We're going to be sending this video in an email to you guys and your parents after this call is over, and then we're also going to be including some activities that you can do to learn further about aquaponics. So you can watch this video and refer back to it if you didn't catch anything, or you just might forget something and you want to learn more about it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on the call. We're really glad you're here. We are really glad to start this program, and we're really excited that the turnout today was, it was a lot of students, more than I expected, so.
Oh, there's a question.
Oh, okay. So what are some large-scale aquaponics systems? Joseph, do you want to take that one?
So right now, off the top of my head, I know that there's a group of people called FFAC, I think. And of course, when we send out our post and call email, I can send you this. We can include this link. and they do like larger scale aquaponic systems, but I don't know of any major groups of like industry, like farming industry people who are doing this kind of system yet, just
But
because like it's still, you know, being in the works.
yeah, I mean, it's still in the works, but there are a lot of large greenhouses that have aquaponic systems. So one example, I'm pretty sure Plant Chicago does, and that's literally located in the city, like 6 miles from Roscoe Village, which is a neighborhood that I live in. And they have a giant warehouse, and they have a lot of like they have a whole facility of aquaponic systems. So that would be like the most large scale type of aquaponic system. You wouldn't just have like a bunch of like a huge like large single system. You would have to have more than one just to be as efficient as possible.
Yes.
All right, any more questions? All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope your day is great. Our next lesson is going to be on Sunday if you guys want to join us. And what are you sure? Do you know what we're talking about on Sunday? I don't remember.
Ocean acidification.
Ocean acidification. All right, thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.